Hey guys, it's Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy. I am the owner and managing editor of the Maxfield Report, and this is our market recap for the week ending January 30th. Big Packer market started out last week with Packers continuing to insist to the trade that they are very well sold. Sold all the way through to the end of February into March. On paper, that may be true. In reality, with the problems plaguing Packers with shipments and the inability to get enough empty containers to move enough product to put their weekly production inside the building, it's been causing them a lot of problems. As far as their offer list, Packers tried to, do the walk of being well sold. There really wasn't a whole lot of changes to list. There were maybe a few more hides offered by some people, whether a selection or two added or load counts increased. But definitely, there were more hides available to people who were interested in buying. As far as interest last week, buyers certainly recognized the problems facing Packers and the inability to move product. They continue to try to bid the market lower. That said, if you're buying for the end of February or into March, Packers will refuse to take any less money. However, if you have the power, being equipment or trucks, and can load right away, you certainly are able to have a little leverage in that situation, able to negotiate prices. So end of the day, although Packers would like to convince you that the market's fully steady, there is trading going on at levels lower than what Packers are telling the trade. Of course, they're swearing the buyers who conclude this business with them to secrecy. End of the day, though, although there were sales concluded last week, I agree with the consensus of the trade that there wasn't enough hides sold, and really not probably any more sales this past week than there was last week. On the cow hides, a little different situation. Excuse me. Of course, the producers continue to insist they're well sold. And, of course, on paper they are. They're now starting to have some of the problems that have been facing Packers. And, that's causing a little buildup in their warehouses as well. But overall, offer lists were unchanged. Folks that had heavy native dairy cows for sale were looking to try to push that price up a little bit. All other asking prices steady. As to interest last week, of course, buyers trying to push the market lower. Processors unwilling to take any less money. There were some instances of heavy native dairy cows trading slightly higher because they are in demand. But you can see that the shipping problems are starting to creep up and impact some people on that processing side, and no one is exempt from this problem. So end of the day, overall sales, not enough to equal what was being harvested last week. So a very uneventful week of trading. As far as the knock last week, it came in at 653. That compares to 657 last week, 638 a year ago. Year to date, we're behind just a little over 200,000 head. That's about 7.1%. But remember, last year's number takes into account 2 extra harvest days compared to this year. But as we go forward, remember back in April and May when the packing houses were affected and impacted by the COVID virus and harvest numbers went to heck in a handbasket, we're going to catch up real quick. And I look for that number this year to easily be probably at least 700,000 to 800,000 over last year's total knock by the time we get to the end of December this year. So as far as the export report that came out, it didn't surprise anybody. The wet salted sales at 320. That's about 50,000 less than the week before. Shipments were 366,000. That's down 30,000 hides. Sales of wet blue, 132. That's about 60,000 less than the week prior. I guess a bright spot is the shipment of wet blue hides, 141,000. That's up 7,000. But here again, we have total sales 452 and total shipments 507. And as I just said, knock last week was 657. So you can see we continue this trend of poor sales, not enough shipments. That's why I think right now there's a lot of people that have hides all over the place. Whether they're in tents, warehouses, what have you, there's certainly an issue there. take a quick trip around the world. Our friends down in Brazil continue to, enjoy good fortunes. Packers, because of COVID issues, are not harvesting as many animals as a year ago. With demand, especially for furniture, remaining very strong, they're able to hold fresh prices steady, maybe even incrementally higher. The same goes for wet blue, steady to incrementally higher. Folks are very well sold down there. However, the one thing to keep in mind is a lot of reports of prices there hitting up against the ceiling and people starting to refuse to pay any more money down there, which is what happened in our market here about 4 weeks ago. And usually, world markets tend to follow us and anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks behind. So keep an eye on that situation. In Europe, similar story. They are able, though, they're not having the shipping issues like we are. So the tanners in Asia who are unable to get shipments are reaching out to sellers in Europe and able to book and to send hides in, and to cover the shortage that they can't get out of the United States. So that's allowing them to keep their market steady. I'm not, I don't believe stories that they're getting more money there. So, but keep an eye on that, because I see and feel from, conversations with people that maybe they're bumping up against the ceiling there as well. Down in Australia, nothing's really changed there. Low harvest numbers. Packers are losing big money down there because live cattle prices are so high, because they've had more than enough rain. The dams are full. There's plenty of grass. So guys raising cattle are hanging on to them. They're holding them very dear. Record live prices down there. Lower harvest numbers, decent demand. Most people are sold, on their hides, so they're wanting to push this market higher. For now, we're going to call that steady, although there's some rumblings and maybe some people got a little bit more money. We'll talk to some more people next week to see if we can confirm some of that happening. The only other big news is what's going on in China, especially in the Hebei area with the COVID. There's lockdowns going on. A lot of tanners closed at the end of last week in Hebei because they didn't have the leather orders, plus they couldn't get people into work. Many other tanneries closed the end of this week. Of course, we're approaching Chinese New Year very quick. I know that reading an article, the Chinese government has issued protocol for the Chinese New Year where people are going to have a negative COVID test in order to be able to travel. And then they got to be able to produce another negative COVID test to be able to go back to the cities they're living in at the end of New Year. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, because the good news there, though, is the port authorities in Hebei allowed containers that were there loaded to be able to be moved, whether tanners moved them into a warehouse or if they resold them to other tanners outside Hebei. But that's bad news for guys selling hides, because now tanners who needed hides can get them in a week to 10 days because they're already at the port. Why would they want to buy hides from people who are selling them when they don't even want to ship them until the end of February or early March? And then they got to take the 4 to 6 weeks to get there. So, and they're probably cheaper than current asking prices. So that's something to keep an eye on, because I think that's going to take away from interest in this market going forward next week too. So that's it for this week. Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy. Check out my website, www.themaxfieldreport.com. I do offer free trials. I don't require a credit card on that. Check it out, see what's going on. Know before your competition does. I'm the most experienced market analyst out there. Everybody else is a newbie, so to speak. So that's it for now, and we'll see you next week.